Need for Speed Unbound was a game that I was so hyped for, with the big name collabs and a switch up in art style. And while there are some great features about the game, there is one huge problem that completely ruins the game. I grew up playing the Need for Speed series, with Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 being the staples of my childhood, with me putting endless hours into learning how to drift, thinking I was an extra from Tokyo Drift. So the Need for Speed series will always have a soft spot in my heart. But honestly, I can't remember the last time I touched a Need for Speed game. The excitement just wasn't there for me. Ever since they moved away from the arcadey feel of the Underground games, I just couldn't get into it. This is where Need for Speed Unbound sparked my interest again. The game seemed to take a completely different approach, mainly with its art style, which I absolutely love, and many others did too. The anime style actually really works well, and while I initially thought the anime smoke clouds were a bit too cheesy, it won me over. I think it adds a really unique element to each car feeling different. The principles of the game are no surprise. Start with a tin can of a car, do some zoomies and win some races, get money, get a better car, rinse and repeat. The car customization options are really impressive, with a wide range of options and vehicles, and you can spend hours messing around with decals to really personalize the feel of your car. Yes, I did spend 20 minutes making my car look like a 15-year-old anime weeb's room. No, I'm not ashamed. The customization doesn't stop with the car though, as you're able to customize your character to your heart's content, and there are some big name brand collabs to make sure your character has the latest drip. That's what the cool kids call it, right? Drip. The races are actually quite challenging, provided you up the difficulty, and I really like how the NOS system rewards you for taking risks, such as driving on the wrong side of the road, drifting, and getting some sick airtime on the jumps, bro. God, this is making me feel old. But in all seriousness, the risk versus rewards keeps the races exciting. Another element is how the police interact, which I don't mind at all. They're a nuisance enough that you have to pay attention to them. I remember at one point they knocked me off a cliff and I missed the checkpoint and lost the race completely, but at the same time, not annoying enough that they take away all of your concentration from the races. You have a heat level, which basically tells you how annoyed the police are with you and whether they will chase you or not. This can happen after you've finished a race where you carry your heat over, but if I'm honest, there's nothing really to worry about. Drive in a straight line and use your NOS and you'll be rid of them in seconds. But if for some reason you do get busted by the cops, you will lose all your money. So it's important that you deposit your winnings at the safe houses, which is another element that you need to keep on top of. Okay, now the compliments are out of the way, we need to talk about the things that are wrong with the game. And trust me, there are a few. The game just doesn't innovate. I can see that they've at least tried with a semi-open world and side quests, but ultimately, pretty much every race feels the same. They tried really hard with incorporating ASAP Rocky as a lead character in the game, which heavily influences the hip-hop style throughout the game, but if anything, I think it actually hurts the game. It sort of pigeonholes itself into being heavily hip-hop focused with the music, which don't get me wrong, I love me some hip-hop, but back in the day with the OG Need for Speed Underground playlists, there was just something about listening to Lil Jon and the East Side Boys getting low, followed by some story of the year hyping you up. I just feel like that's a little spark missing in the game. As previously mentioned, I do love the anime style of the game, but just because it's in cartoon style doesn't mean the game should cut corners with the graphic quality. There were more than a few occasions during cutscenes where the shading just simply didn't render. I know I'm being picky, but this is next-gen gaming, and when we're comparing it to surprisingly visually stunning games such as the campaign of Modern Warfare 2, it's so far off. Now, to the huge problem that completely overshadows any of the promising elements of Need for Speed Unbound, and that is the story. The story of the game is just awful and outdated. Now, give credit to the voice actors, as I think they did a good job with what they had, but some of the lines are just so cheesy, and the game's meant to make you feel like a badass street racing gearhead who's snapping necks and collecting checks, but it's the complete opposite. I feel like the writers were just massively out of touch with the car racing community and have tried to gear the storyline of the game towards more of a political / societal agenda, and the game just makes me feel old. I feel like I'm too old to be playing this game. Just the way the story is pitched and the dialogue in the game, it really makes it feel like it's more directed towards kids. Can you remember how I sarcastically used the word drip? Now imagine me using that word seriously multiple times throughout this video. Cringe, right? Well, essentially that's what Need for Speed Unbound does. I feel like too much emphasis was put into making a game with a political agenda as opposed to going back and looking at what made the OG Underground games such a hit. It feels like characters are just being introduced for the sake of it, and if that's going to be the case, at a minimum we shouldn't be getting the same cutscenes and the same repeated quips throughout a race. I was 2 races in and heard the same voice acting lines over and over. So the whole reason you've clicked this video, should you buy Need for Speed Unbound? Maybe. Now hear me out. If you can get past this relentless story that makes the game feel like a chore, the gameplay itself is actually really fun. The anime art style is really unique and the car customization options are amazing. If you want a game where you can just build your custom dream car and go drifting around town, then this is the game for you. But if you're after a full AAA title experience, I can't recommend it. But in case you do buy the game, why don't you check out this video where I show all of the achievements available in Need for Speed Unbound.